Every night is the Rangers Journal night.
Hello everyone, yes, no, it is not Big Bird in front of you, it is Andrew from the Ibrox Channel podcast. It is the new home goalie shirt, so no, I'm not auditioning for Big Bird tonight, don't you worry guys. But yes, you are live, we are just over 24 hours away from Rangers' first competitive game of the season. So we've got a fantastic panel of guests this evening to go through our kind of predicted lineups, which this is going to be really interesting because we've not really seen a proper lineup from Russell Martin, because we've not really had many friendlies, have we? There's been a lot of closed door friendlies, there's been a lot of squad rotation, so we haven't really got a full idea of how the squad's going to kind of line up yet, and we don't always know who's fit either at the minute, and obviously there's contract situations, there's everything. Well, we're going to go through that this evening. If you want a little bit more detail about the lowdown on the game tomorrow night, then the lowdown is available now. So when you finish watching this pod, head back to YouTube and you'll find the lowdown there. Do give that a watch, a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the Rangers Journal. Now, before we introduce my fantastic panel of guests, look at all these beautiful people in front of us this evening. I'm just going to mention our sponsor, Off to the Match I Go. So don't forget, head to offtothematchigo.co.uk and enter Journal 10 for 10% off some of the absolute fantastic stuff on the website. There's lots of great, very rare Rangers memorabilia on there, so you won't want to miss that, guys. So do get on there. So joining us this evening, first of all, it is the lovely Doug, who's modelling the away goalie shirt. Two keepers in here tonight. How you doing, Doug?
Yeah, I got the dressing memo. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. Looking forward to chatting about the game and just excited for the competitive action to come back.
I'm absolutely choking for it. I just can't wait, and I just hope it all kind of goes to plan and we get off on a good start. So yeah, good to have you on, Doug. And second of all, it is live from Ibrox, and for some reason it's nighttime at Ibrox this evening. It's Colin. How you doing, big man?
Yeah, just buzzing to be under the lights at Ibrox. I'm good, Andrew. Yeah, delighted to be on with you three fine gents. So, like you say, buzzing, exciting. We're not far off now, so can't wait to be at Ibrox tomorrow. And looking forward to the chat over the next hour with you guys.
Can you confirm if we put disco lights in this year? I hope we haven't. Please say we haven't.
We're not going to curse ourselves.
Nice one, Colin. Nice one. And last but not least, it's our ray of sunshine here on the pod. It is Ryan. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing fine. I just wanted to give a wee bit of context to a couple of our friend Curry's comments here. We had a night out, a gathering on Saturday night, and Curry was one of our special guests to it, so if he's going to be bringing up all these comments and calling us piss artists and what have you, that is in relevance to that. So he was one of the special. It was a great night at the Roseville to start with in Partick, which is a great Rangers pub, and we went across and checked out Walters and Rutherglen as well. And I think it's safe to say we'd recommend both of them if anyone's looking for somewhere to go and have a Rangers evening to themselves. We had a great time.
Two absolutely fantastic pubs, and Walters just looks absolutely brilliant. It was a good night. It was definitely a good night up on the town. So yeah, definitely. Even with Curry.
Yes, yeah. I think he was probably actually the best behaviour. It was all, which might surprise of you.
To be fair, I think he was trying to lead us astray. I think a wee bit, wasn't he?
Definitely. Yeah.
Nice one. Yeah, absolutely great night out there on Saturday night, and not too hungover, because when you get to your late 30s, your 40s, and yeah, it's about a 5-day recovery for a hangover. So I'm quite lucky. I'm not too bad. Right. So it is the big one tomorrow night. We have heard some kind of little bits of news. We have heard that Theo Osgaard, he hasn't trained today. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that he is out the game tomorrow. That'll probably go down to a late fitness test. But it doesn't look good for him, which is a shame, because he seems to be one of the kind of hotly tipped people so far in the squad, especially in training. Danilo and Igaman, though, they are kind of back in the picture. They have trained, but I think they're only just back into basic training. They've kind of missed a massive chunk of pre-season. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one there. But that's kind of the latest little tidbits that we do have. So we are going to go into our kind of predicted lineups. So I'm going to start with Doug's predicted lineup. Before we get into this, guys, make sure if you are watching and you're not subscribing, just hit subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and turn your notifications notifications on because we've got loads of people here, and it's good to see you all in the comments there. So right, Doug, I'm going to start with you. It's yourself that made these lovely graphics, so thank you ever so much. But let's have your lineup, and we'll see if there's a little bit of a theme this evening. So Jack Butland in goal. So I wonder if anyone will have any different keepers, because obviously we have a little bit of a keeper situation at the minute. It's looking very good. Would you say it's a 4-3-3 or a 4-3-2-1, Doug? What is it? Tomato?
I'm claiming it as a 4-5-1, but yeah, you could call it 4-3-3 if you wanted. Either which way, but I say a 4-5-1 just because I feel like the way I envision this lineup anyway, the two attacking midfielders there are more attacking midfielders or 10s than they are wide men. So I know that I'm expecting there to be width from them, but also width from the fullbacks. It'll depend on how much he makes them sort of move inside rather than go out, which I think is one of the things I'm interested to see in how his lineup goes. And also just because, or at least for the two that I've picked, that they are more midfielders than they are wingers as well. So I feel that their natural inclination would be to be a bit more central. And it gives that kind of little, sort of in the shape I've kind of put them in there, those little triangles of passing that they can make quick movements and adjustments, passes, and it's that kind of quick passing and moving positional play that I'm expecting to see from the team, and that hopefully that that's going to be the kind of thing that we're going to start to see for breaking teams down.
One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put up this comment, and I think you know what one's coming, Doug. I might have to put this on a sign and tap to it for the rest of the evening. Well, I don't know yet. I haven't seen everyone's teams, but why Dowell? Show your work in there, Doug. Show your work in.
Dell's there because that's who I expect to be there. This is the lineup. Small spoiler alert for you. This is the lineup that I've chosen on the lowdown. Which on the lowdown, I always try and kind of keep it to be what I majoritively think the lineup will be, with just maybe a little bit of what I'd like the lineup to be. So there's normally at least one player when I do the lowdown that I've maybe put in more so that because I want them there rather than I think they'll be there. In this version, it's Cameron. I'd really like to see him in the starting lineup because I'm really excited by him. I think he's got a lot to offer. However, I think we're probably more likely to see Barami in there, maybe even Curtis after he did so well. Depends on what's been happening sort of in the interim in training. Obviously, we would have expected Asgard to be in there, but that's unlikely now. So yeah, Dell's not there because I necessarily want him to be. Although if he's been playing well in friendlies, then that's fine. I'm happy with a player who's perceivably on form being in the team. But I do think long term Dell's there because our other options aren't ready. So players like Gassama. We've been linked with at least another 1, 2, 3 wingers in the last week or so. And so I do think come the close of the actual window, we'll have a broader selection of players to play in these forward areas, and that will see that'll slip him down the pecking order. But as it is right now, I think he's the one that's kind of made the position his own.
Okay, fair enough. So it's not quite who you would put in that position, but based on kind of what you think, you reckon he'll start tomorrow. Okay, yep. Fair enough. It's interesting to see Cameron in there. Cameron's not, I wouldn't say he's been a bit of a forgotten soul this kind of pre-season. Obviously, we've seen a couple of good interviews with him. But, of course, a lot of people kind of, not necessarily were forgetting that we were signing him, because we did agreed the pre-contract in January. It's not somebody we kind of, you think of too much, do you? It kind of goes to the back of your mind a little bit. Good to see that you do have, it's good to see you got Suter in there. I think it's good to go with, you need, I think, a recognised centre-back that has played. And we know what Suter's like. He does have a mistake in him, but he can play with the ball at his feet. So I think that would be quite vital in that kind of setup tomorrow night. Aaron's left back, that seems to be the option, I think, based on what we've seen in pre-season, the little kind of glimpses we've seen. Obviously, predominantly a right back, but can kind of sit there at left back and kind of cutting using his other foot. So that'll be interesting to see. Also, it's been a lot of chat of a back three. Look, spoiler alert, I haven't gone with a back three either. I do feel that it's going to be something a little bit more recognised, and I do think it could be something not too dissimilar to this. Are you confident with Jack Butland there tomorrow night, Doug?
I'm confident in respect to his shot stopping. I like to think that over the summer he'll have had the chance to reset, kind of physically and mentally, and he can come into the season afresh, and hopefully regain a bit of form. The key will be how he can manage with Martin's style in terms of being a more aggressive goalkeeper, in terms of sometimes in Martin's system. And these sort of aggressive pressing systems, the goalkeeper is quite high up, playing an almost sweeper style, and being that extra man to have there as a pass, which helps to overload and free up players forward. So how much he can do of that, I'm not sure. And I think that will be his challenge. And he's one of the, I think there's two players in this lineup, him and Danilo, who I think are in positions that really are there they have to perform if they want to stake their claims to continue in this Rangers team. We have started to see little links with goalkeepers in the recent week or so. And so I think if Jack Butland wants to remain as the Rangers goalkeeper, he's going to have to perform. He's going to have to show that he can be the type of goalkeeper that Russell Martin needs if he wants to hold his position. And so similar thing with Danilo, he's got a really good opportunity right now. The other strikers aren't fit, so he's the guy leading the line. He's been doing really, really well in the friendlies, but they are only friendlies. A lot of the opposition have been much lower level than what he's going into now. But he's got an opportunity to show Russell Martin as well that I could be your leading striker here, ahead of two people that are potentially going out the door, and then ahead of whoever potentially comes in to replace them. So I think it's a big night, or two big nights, as well as the sort of initial league games for both of those players to kind of show Russell Martin that they've got something to offer him.
No, could definitely agree there. Seeing Rothwell in there, kind of in the defensive midfield role, is that where you were looking at for it being a little bit of a back five? I take it that's out of possession. You're looking for him to drop back a little bit. Maybe Diamandi going a bit forwards. At least it's not a double pivot. I do like that, actually.
Yeah.
I've got sick of seeing that double pivot now, even though it probably would be more applicable to Europe. It's refreshing.
Well, I think this
see.
could work in terms of, like you talked about the back five earlier, and I think even in possession, we may see Rothwell drop in, because that's another thing that Martin's teams will do. Sometimes that sitting midfielder will drop down into between the centre backs. The centre backs will push wide, and the full backs will push up, and so the full backs will end up beside or inside of Raskin and Diomande, who are also going to be pushing up, because again, one of the things I'm really hoping to see from this team that I've seen in Russell Martin's other team is the team just being much higher up the pitch in general, which can obviously forces teams back. So if he does that, if Rothwell drops to make sort of passes between the centre backs, and you've got your full backs pushed up, and then the Raskin and Diomande pushed up, you've then got the option for your, as I say, those attacking mids to either move out wide, depending on what the fullbacks do, or come in and join that. And then again, you've got lots of passing options there, lots of movement that you can get. I'm not familiar with Max Irons in terms of how technical he is. From what I gather, he was obviously very well thought of in his younger years. He was linked to teams like Bayern Munich and Barcelona, so he must have, I'm assuming, a good level of technical ability with his feet. We know that Tavernier has a good level of technical ability with his feet, so I expect, if that's the case, that both of them are going to be pushing up, and they will use those skills to be passing options, and to obviously make those extra movements become extra men in congested areas. And as I say, that key thing of positional play is finding that extra man somewhere that you can then get around defences.
No, I like the explanation for that, actually, because you can either be, depending on how it's operating, you can either be compact or you can spread out a little bit depending on who's coming forward and who's kind of staying back. So that seems quite organised. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the other podders if there's anything that they might change, or if there's anything they do like. So Ryan, is there anything there that do you think this could be a lineup for tomorrow?
I hope not. I've got a few concerns. Lack of width definitely is there, and I understand obviously you could play in a formation like this and rely on your fullbacks giving you width. You're looking at a 33-year-old Tavernier being one of the ones that give you the width, and I don't think he's got the legs for going up. A Tavernier, 8-10 years ago could have given you 10 to 15 kilometres in a game, absolutely no problem at all. But a 33-year-old Tavernier is not going to be that guy. You're then having to rely on somebody like Rothwell, Suter, or Graskin to then come in, cover him, and sweep up and do his yards for him, which obviously distracts him. On the other side, we Aaron's, whatever we want to call him, you're playing a right back at left back, which is going to cause you difficulty. If you had somebody there like a Borna Barisic or something, then maybe you could use those guys for width. So I've got concerns that we're potentially using the fullbacks for that, and I don't think they're going to be capable of it. I'm looking at that midfield. I think there's too many guys who are too similar that are all going to be in there, all wanting to do the same thing. You've got Cameron, who's got an eye for goal. Rasky's starting to pitch in. He's getting a few more goals as well. Diamandi now needs to start bringing more to the table when it comes to goals and stuff as well. And I'll be honest, I can't see Dow being here at the end of the transfer window. So why are we still going to be consistent in playing him? I know there was talk there in the chat about Gassama not being ready. But for me, there's too many guys in there all wanting to do the same thing. You don't have guys like the runners in behind, like Scotty Arfield would give you a run in behind. All these guys like to do their business on the edge of the penalty box, and we can't have them lined up with the BBs, to be honest with you, doing it. So for me, it's not the formation I would like to see. There's lots of similarities in my own one, which I'm sure we'll come on to, but for me, it's too compact and it's too weak wide. So, and there's also the point as well, which I would make, there's a significant lack of pace in that lineup as well. There's not anyone in there you would actually describe as a speedster.
Right, there we go. You're not holding back there, Ryan. I like your honesty. I like your honesty there. I think you've covered that quite well there, actually, Ryan. Doug, do you want to come back in at all? Do you think there's going to be any counteracts? Is the team going to be able to counteract that, what Ryan's saying there?
I think he's right in terms of the aspects of the width. There's no real natural width in that lineup, which something that I would agree with. I think that you'd more likely see them attack through the middle. The onus would be on the front two midfielders to try and bring that width and to move out and push out where they can, and where obviously options lead. In terms of one of the key aspects around that will be the opposition. So, for example, one of their key players is one of their wingers, who's very good going forward, but he's very poor defensively, very low defensive actions in terms of his sort of percentile scores. So he's not a player that tracks back a lot. So I expect us to find space behind him on their right hand side. So there'll be onus on whoever the player that's going to occupy that position. There'll be onus on them to make use of that. So I think he's definitely right there. I do think that some of those players can provide the runs. I mean, Cameron and Raskin have both shown last season, I think, that they can make those kind of Arfield-like runs. Raskin in particular did that quite a lot last season. So I don't think that would, for me anyway, that would be as big of an issue, but I think everything else is pretty valid. Maybe, again, I can't say because I'm not familiar with him, but I don't know whether Aaron's might be better at the width. He is obviously younger than Tavernier, so maybe he'll be able to do the width a bit better. I'm not 100% sure. As I say, I need to get to see him playing, but other than that, I think there's pretty valid concerns as to what the team lack, and I think like I say, the width would be the key thing.
Yeah, no, well answered there, Doug. Colin, what do you think in there really works for you? Do you think we can get quite a few goals in this? Do you think that Danilo will have enough service from Dowell and Cameron in this kind of setup?
Yeah, that's the big question. I think Doug's made quite a few good points there, and Ryan after him about the balance of the team. Probably worth reminding people that we're trying to pick a team based on what we would pick, but also trying to be realistic in terms of who we have available. I guess we'd all hope to have Gassama starting, Asgard starting, but he's by the sounds of it, he's not going to be available at least for the first leg. Cameron's one of those who I think we spoke about him early in pre-season. He came in and think we do have high hopes for him, but it's gone really quiet in terms of, what's he been doing in training. And, obviously the last few bounce games we've had, he's not really had a look in. Whereas, the likes of Finlay Curtis seems to be becoming quite prominent in the team. Dowell, for me, again, he starred a lot of the bounce games. I think Dowell probably will start tomorrow night. I personally wouldn't have him, but I can see why Doug's put him in, because Russell Martin seems to trust him. And in terms of the shape, the final point I would make, because I think Ryan's touched on a few of the things I was going to say. I do think, regardless of who the two behind Danilo are, they are going to be asked to hug the touchline. Because we saw in the Club Brugge game, Russell Martin's structure in terms of his tactics, they require two guys who will stretch the pitch right out to the side. And we saw in the Club Brugge game, the two eights, so in this team being Raskin and Diomande, they were always up alongside Danilo on the final line. So for that to work, you have to have the wide guys, regardless of who they are, hugging the touchline. And I think Scotty said in the comments, we had number 10s out wide far too often last year. But with what we've got for tomorrow night, I think it's likely that you'll have at least one, if not two 10s out wide. So hopefully we'll see Gassama in the second half. But good team, interesting points being made. And I think you'd arguably say at least 8 or 9 of these guys are definitely the team for tomorrow night. There's probably a couple of positions that we'll all have variations on.
There we go. That's it. So that's your team, Doug, for tomorrow night. So obviously going for Butland in goal, Aarons, Deja, Suter, Tavernier, Rothwell, Raskin, Diamande, Cameron, Dowell and Danilo up top. So it's time, thank you for that, Doug. So it's time to go to Ryan's now. There are some questions in there, so what I've done is I've starred them. I will come back to them because we'll get through everyone's teams and do a little bit of questions afterwards. So let's have a look at Ryan's team. So this is quite a nice wide team, a little bit compact in the middle, but I can see why. You've got the kind of Diamande and Raskin kind of there. That sticks out straight away because that worked quite well in Europe. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Again, going with kind of the same kind of midfield three. So that does seem to be, at the minute, I would say probably our strongest midfield three. Obviously Cortez in there, Danilo, Gassama. First kind of choice of Gassama this evening. So Ryan, do you want to take us through it, mate?
Yeah, so the goalkeeping situation is basically kind of forced on us. If you want to start from the back, I'm probably at the stage where if somebody came to me and said there's going to be a replacement for Butland coming in, I think we're talking about the boy from Brighton that was coming in. He'd have been an interesting one to come through. So I think we are shopping for a goalkeeper, but I think there's other priorities at this moment in time. But if you were to ask me, do I want Butland or Kelly, I would go with Butland. Purely just more the experience than anything else at this side of things. But I think he's still got a lot to prove, and obviously there's an opportunity for him to do that tomorrow night. Aaron's at left back. I'm not over enthusiastic about. Obviously, Redvan's been told he can find another club. I'm not too sure what the situation is with Jeffrey, but we're looking at, obviously, with Aaron's going into there, Tavernier being a mainstay at right back. Jig and Suter, the two there, I think probably Fernandez might be a wee bit too soon for him. Obviously, it's quite a big step up from coming from League One. Jig has got loads of Champions League experience in there as well. Suter's obviously played with us for a couple of years as well, knows what to expect when it comes to big European nights at Ibrox, so they're going to be the two. But I do think we do need one, if not two more centre-backs by the end of the window, especially rumours that Suter's leaving. Rothwell's basically your linchpin in the middle of the park. I'm looking for him to kind of control the tempo. He's going to be your kind of mainstay. I'd expect for him to kind of have a in and around the centre circle for the vast majority of the game, winning the ball, collecting the ball from the centre-backs and basically dictating play. And then your top five, as we've got here, are basically just the guys that I would just hope that would go out and just cause absolute chaos. Spoke about Raskin's runs coming in behind. He started to add a couple more goals to his game, which has been great. Diamande, as I said a couple of minutes ago, needs to kind of step up and start to replicate that. But there's no question certainly on work rate when it comes to Raskin and Diamande, so they can certainly be box to box tomorrow night. Cortez, jury's out a lot with him. Obviously, it was quite a controversial situation. He hasn't done great, but he needs to basically start to prove why he's here. But the good thing is with having Gassama now, it's not going to be that the ball doesn't have to come to Cortez to get the win now. the question of Gassama actually being ready or not, I would rather start him than bring him off the bench. You know, I'd rather have a situation where we go out and do our business early. And if he only plays 60, 65 minutes, but he sets up 2 or 3 goals, maybe has another goal. So, you know, do the damage early there and look at and bring him in a pressure situation where maybe if Panathinaikos are lucky enough to find the lead against us, then they start to sit back and it becomes the low block. That may be a bit more difficult for somebody to be coming off the bench to try and find that, especially if obviously he's lacking match sharpness. So I'd like to see Gassama start. And just basically between him and Cortez, they're interchangeable. They're both inverted wingers, so they can swap over. You know, Danilo can obviously find pockets and stuff as well. Danilo's quite good at coming short and linking up play. But I'm really looking at the top 5 just to go out there and just cause a ride tomorrow night. And obviously with the help of Aarons and Tavernier getting involved coming up the park as well, and Rothwell just sitting in and protecting defence is where I'm seeing it. Leaves us quite a good few options for the bench as well. Spoke about Finlay Curtis, so Curtis could come off and replace Gassama. We've got obviously Lyle Cameron's an option there. He could come on and replace either Diamandi or Raskin. So there is options from the bench to come on and replace guys if and when they're needed. If we're finding we're not getting the kind of natural width coming from Aarons, you could potentially put Aarons to right back. You could bring Tavernier into centre. You know, there's interchangeable options there if you want to do that. So I think it's just one that it really just puts pressure on, because all these guys, if Rothwell's winning the ball back, Raskin's great running the ball back, Diamandi's great, and it just keeps the pressure on and just keeps turning the screw on. I think this will hopefully be our best chance of success. And it looks as if there's plenty of goals in this team as well, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I do like it. I do like the way that the middle and the front is. I do like the fact, because this is what I did, because obviously Cortez is somebody that can swap wings, both of them can swap wings, and that'll create a little bit of chaos, especially if one gets doubled up and so forth, and it's good that you can do that. The interesting thing so far for me is back line is looking the same. Having Rothwell in just in kind of in front of the fence as that extra protection is looking quite familiar as well. Obviously Jack Butland as well, like you say, Ryan, it's kind of the hand we've got at the minute, isn't it, in that situation? So, you know, you never know. Butland could have had a bit of a reset, like Doug said, over the summer, and you know, because we've not really seen too much from him, because we've been feels like we've missed out on a pre-season almost. But so I'm going to go to the other podders and see. So Doug, is there anything that, obviously we've seen your team already? Do you think this is a little bit more attacking, or do you think that you've got to be a little bit more reserved?
I don't know if I'd consider it more attacking per se, but attacking in a different way. I mean, it's an identical lineup after 2 players, basically Cortez and Gassama. So I think that kind of shows, you know, certainly midfield and defence, I think we're all thinking similar things. I can't quite remember what Colin had, so I can't remember how similar his was, but I think I know there's at least some there that are similar. Not to put out any spoilers, but I do feel like the kind of defence and midfield are kind of are picking themselves from what we know, and I think for the majority of it, I think the majority of people would be pretty happy with that defence and midfield, apart from like Ryan added, I know a lot of people will prefer seeing Aarons on the right and either a new left back or Jeffy playing. So apart from that, though, I think most people are happy with that kind of setup. It's probably our best setup in terms of what we know. Obviously, we don't know how a lot of these new players are going to perform yet, so we can't say, you know, how they'll do. But from what we do know thus far, what we can kind of guess and gauge, you know, I think that's pretty standard. The one thing I like about it most is because again, it's something that I complained a lot about last season, was the lack of interchangeability in our attack. To me, there's 2 main things you need to break down, not low blocks necessarily, but just teams that are well organized and defensive, which, you know, I don't think as many teams are playing low blocks now, honestly, in the league, but all of them are still very well organized and defensive, which still requires, you know, breaking down. And the 2 big things you need that we lacked tremendously last season, one is speed of play and thought, moving the ball quickly, making players move and confusing them by moving the ball quickly, and then players moving around and interchanging, which then drags markers and things like that and creates spaces, gaps, and that's where you can create your chances. And that's something that I think, I'm excited as well to see players that can do that, can interchange with one another, that are capable of playing both sides and thusly can swap about. I do think that that's a big advantage Danilo gives, because Danilo has and can play as like a sort of a more attacking mid, or on the left side as well. So he's capable of that movement also. So you could maybe see, points where someone like a Gassama is kind of up and in the middle and Danilo's pulled back a bit, because Gassama likes a shot from what I've read. So I do think there's a lot of potential in that respect in this lineup, and then obviously just the main big difference is you've got more immediate, automatic, and natural width, because you're playing with two actual wingers, as opposed to the more central players and Dylan and Cameron. So that would be the big difference. I think both our teams would attack, but they would do it in different fashions.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Interestingly, looking at the back line, obviously the left back situation, we are, of course, Colin using essentially a right back that can play there. It's not as if he's not used to playing there, but he can play there. Nobody's chose Jeff Day so far. Do you reckon it will be Aaron's tomorrow night, Colin?
Yeah, almost definitely. The boys have both touched on it. I think we've seen in the bounce games that seems to be the five. Butland, that back four seems to be what he has settled on. I'm quite comfortable with Aaron's being left back in this game. I think, further on the season, I think you will see Tav play less, especially if we get a new left back in the door. I think we were linked again with Owen Beck today. So I think if we could get Ridvan out the door, then I think there will be another left back coming in. And, you could then see Aiden's move to right back possibly. But yeah, for this game, Panathinaikos, from what I've read, are very strong down the right-hand side. That's where they like to attack. Their winger and their right back, very, very strong. So, very comfortable with Aiden's at left back. I think the other point is, Jeff Day is a great player. He's got a lot of potential, but he has been questioned defensively. He does switch off. So, yeah, very much supportive of Aaron's starting left back. Gassama, I saw a comment coming up in the chat there, Andrew, about Gassama and what Russell Martin said this afternoon. I thought it was really interesting. He was asked about Igaman and Dessers, and he said that they weren't ready to start. But when he was asked about Gassama, he said he wasn't ready for 90 minutes. And I just wonder if he's tempted because of what the boys have said about the lack of width, about the lack of pace. I wonder if he'll just be tempted to stick him in from the start and play him for 55, 60 minutes. Because I like that team. I think Ryan's chosen a really, really good team there. There's a good balance to it.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially with their managerial comments. There's been kind of mixed messages with some players, but like you say, Gassama, that there's the door's open a little bit more there because he didn't say no. So, hopefully we can see him at the start, I think, especially if we have, if we look to have a strong start to the game. So, yeah, no, very good team there, Ryan. So, Colin, it is time to have a look at your team. And here is your team. So, back line, pretty much the same. Suter's just been swapped around. He's kind of in his more normal, usual position that we're used to seeing him there. Obviously Rothwell, I think it's definitely a cert Rothwell is going to start, especially in that kind of defensive midfield role. We have Raskin and Diamande in that kind of I guess we'll call it a slight double pivot in front, and of course we've gone for Bajrami. So I take it, Colin, Bajrami's impressed you pre-season when we saw him in the Bruges game?
Yeah, so Doug's also made Barami the main guy, the photo there. He's done me up like a kipper. I wouldn't be selecting him if other guys were available. If Asgar was available, if Gassama is available, then they'd both be ahead of him. But I think he did impress in the Club Bruges game, and he is a number 10. He's not a wide player. We saw him play there a couple of times last year. He wasn't particularly effective. But I just wonder if Russell Martin will stick him out there and let him have a go. Court is on the other side. Obviously, he's we paid a lot of money for him. I think he's got a lot of potential. Again, he's looked sharp and he needs a run of games. So I'm hopeful he'll get a start. I think the midfield three is really strong, and we've all picked the same back four. We've all picked the same midfield three. The midfield is where we can win this game, I think. These three are good enough to drive the three in front of them on. They're good enough to get the ball into the final third and give them opportunities to go and create. Then it's going to be up to them. That's the biggest question about this lineup. Are we going to be good enough to create the chances from wide areas for Danilo? And the only other slight change was in the back four, and it was moving Suter to less than a half, purely because obviously Gia and Aarons are new to the team, and also because I'd rather have Gia, who I think is probably going to be our strongest centre half, on Tav's side, just to cover for any lapses in concentration that our captain may produce in the night. Hopefully not, though. So yeah, I do think it'll be Dowell on the right, and I think it'll be Curtis on the left, but that's what I've gone with.
Yeah, no, I do like it. I think it is very good. Yeah, Suter in his natural position there, I can kind of understand that. And like you said, Dave explained that quite well. Obviously, you can see Deja kind of covering in, especially if it depends how Tav is going to play, if he's going to really push up or if he's going to be limited a little bit more, maybe just go past the halfway line. I don't know. I'd imagine we're still looking at what Tav used to do as what he's going to be expected to do tomorrow night. So yeah, you've got that cover for the kind of potential Tav era, which is something that does happen with a lot of right backs. We all remember Trent Alexander was slated because he was very good in an attacking sense, but was a bit lax in the defensive sense at times. But no, I do like that. So Ryan, I'm going to come to you first, mate. Oh, sorry, no, Doug. Apologies, Doug. I couldn't see you there. It's so small on this screen. It's unbelievable. So, Doug, anything you would change in that starting 11? Anybody you might sub out, or do you think that is a good enough selection to get 3 points to win the game tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously very similar. Midfield defence, identical in terms of personnel. So again, it's just looking at the forward line. I would point out that there was no attempt to stitch up with the photo. The photo was chosen because that was the unique thing of your lineup compared to the other two lineups. And obviously, Brahmi, having not had a great season last year, he didn't get featured many in my picture choices. So took my opportunity while I could. But I mean, Brahmi played pretty well in his defence in the Bruges game. He was one of the better players after the sort of poor first half. So I mean, it wouldn't entirely surprise me if he started the game. Obviously, he's an option there to pick who is fit, who has he's been in all of the videos that I can remember watching for training. And again, he's another player that I think, if he's going to be a Rangers player moving forward, then he needs to show that he's got something to offer after, last season. As I say, he started off brightly, then had a long period of either not featuring or not really particularly playing well. But I did think he showed a little bit more in the sort of the dying embers of the year. So he could be someone that could offer us something. I expect if he does stay, though, he'll probably be more of a squad player. Again, considering we're still linked with a couple of players that are going to play, I think, in the positions that he's likely to play, be that out wide, or if it's going to be in one of the more central attacking positions, we've got a lot of options there now in terms of midfielders there. So, those attacking midfield positions and wide attacking positions are going to be areas it looks like that we're going to have a lot of competition in, which will be good because, again, that's something we've lacked in recent years. You had Cherney last season, and that was it when it came to wingers. It was basically Cherney's picked, and who's next in line that's fit was, felt like was our only options a lot of the time. So it'll be really good to have 1, 2, 3, 4 players that can play these positions, 1, 2, 3, 4 players that can play that position and have actual competition, because that not only is that good in terms of options, being able to rest players, which helps with fitness, which prevents injuries, but it puts the players on their toes as well and gets that extra percentage points out of them in hopefully key games like this, because they know if I don't play well now, there's someone there who's ready to come in and take my position. So again, I'm hoping that these players are going to be playing with that in mind, thinking to themselves, right, Brahmi, Cortez as well. They know that we're out buying players in these positions, so if they want to play for us this season, they need to show straight away that they can offer something, or they'll either be out the door or on the sidelines.
Yeah, no, you've got a good case there. A good case there for Colin's team. Curry, obviously, flattery gets you nowhere, Curry. Flattery gets you nowhere, big man. Yeah, so very interesting. I do like, again, Ryan, could you see, there was a good comment in here a few minutes ago that was saying, from Big Shug, Basrami might work with a manager that tries to play football instead of just seeing the ball fly over his head. Do you think playing the ball at the feet will benefit a player like Basrami more? Could you see there being a bit of revitalised Basrami under Russell Martin, possibly, Ryan?
Possibly. If the emphasis is to play the ball to feet, because he's not blessed with load of pace. If you knock the ball 30 yards ahead of him, chances are somebody's going to get there before him. So, I think the lineup overall it seems okay. It's not that dissimilar to obviously my own. So, but I mean, if maybe Collins get his eye on, he spoke about how strong they are down the right hand side. We probably, if you look at my own lineup with Cortez on the left, you probably say that it's not his greatest strength, that he can track back and look to make tackles. Whereas Barami, we've seen that he's done reasonably well. Obviously, he's Mark Callum McGregor out the game, a couple of Old Firm games and stuff like that. So he's obviously aware of his defensive duties as well as his duties going forward and stuff. So it's maybe not a bad shout if you're looking to maybe worry about your opposition more. And you're maybe, in my own opinion, I'd maybe look at that towards the kind of second half once hopefully we've got our business done. You start to look at it now and say, right, he's done enough. He's done his legs. He's done his business. Let's get him off. He's ran his race and start, bringing in your smarter guys, the likes of your Bayrami, you're bringing him on to kind of see the game out. You're maybe looking to other guys like, if Dessus could give us 20 minutes up front or something like that and win us a few fouls further up the park and stuff like, you're maybe looking towards guys like that. One thing I would say though is probably, obviously we've all named the same 4 guys in the back 4. And it's just kind of popped in my head. There's every possibility this time next year that none of that back 4 will actually be here, because you've got 2 guys in season-long loans with no option to buy, and you've got 2 players that are actually coming out of contract at the end of the season. So, and if you actually look through the whole team, there's actually loads of guys there that there's so many question marks over our players at the moment. So we really need to keep recruiting. I don't want to take us off on a tangent, but it just kind of shows you we are very much still in transition, although that this might be an opinion of 3 different kind of first 11s, but I don't think we're anywhere near the finished article and the finished product of what we actually need to be going into the first game of the season.
Yeah, no, very wise words, Ryan. So that is Colin's team, and obviously at the minute it does seem like up the top it probably will likely be Danilo, and probably a good thing actually, because he is in a bit of form at the minute. Granted, he's probably the only real fit up to speed option. We do have obviously players that we haven't seen yet that we have seen in pre-season. So you have the Curtis, Josh Gentles, not in the starting lineups so far. So it's probably too much of a big game, but you never know. Could see them maybe in the second half later on. But so that is Colin's team. Thank you, Colin. That's a good starting 11. All the starting 11s have been pretty decent so far. Only kind of minimal changes, but in these big games, some of these changes and tweaks can almost undo a team and affect chemistry and affect just kind of the press. So it's amazing sometimes how just tweaking one player in one position can change things completely. So I'm going to go through my team now. You will brace yourselves, guys. So I've gone with Jack Butland in goal. Back 4 once again. It's almost pretty much the back 4 I think we played at Dunfermline, if I remember right. I can't remember if Suter was there or on the other side. But of course, yes, gone with Tav, Suter, Dija, and Aarons. I didn't start with Rothwell. And I was thinking more with what Ratkin has done in Old Firms, kind of in that kind of position at times where he can kind of mop up and do a bit of the dirty work. Out of the new starters, I probably would say Rothwell's probably a bit more up to speed. So this was obviously with having Osgaard in mind. Obviously, it looks like he's severely doubtful, so this would change. yeah, I was thinking maybe just that kind of attacking kind of threat. The front three, not too dissimilar to Ryan. I was going with obviously Danilo up top, kind of best option at the minute, and looking at having Cortez and Gassama kind of switch over, especially if one is getting doubled up on, and that can kind of help, because I think when Cortez, was it Lawrence Cortez was at? I think he used to play on the opposite side. And that was quite effective for him. He is very versatile in any kind of the positions there, so I kind of went with that option. Obviously, it is touch and go, but it is looking doubtful that Osgaard will play. So I think that based on a lot of things, I probably would move Raskin kind of into his position, and would very likely be Rothwell. I don't know why I can't think of his name. But yeah, right, Doug, go on. Pick it apart. Do me dirty.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate Ryan on advocating that Tavernier should get a new contract. A really good issue to be picked up there. But I'm only joking. I wouldn't apply such slander to Ryan's name. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick apart, to be honest, because obviously there's a lot of similarities in there. Like you said, it looks like Asgard will be doubtful, so we'll likely see someone else in there. I mean, one thing that I think that we will see that we haven't really maybe touched on in terms of the midfield three, if we say, I saw some of the guys in the comments saying that, Rothwell's likely to be a starter under Martins, and I probably would agree with that. I think he will be a favourite, certainly to begin with anyway. But one thing I do think we'll see about those midfield players as well, they will also, I think, rotate and move, and we will see them floating around positions, because most of them can do, to one degree or another, the jobs of those three kind of positions. Diamandi's maybe not quite as adept defensively as Raskin and Rothwell, but I'd still think that you will see them move about. Raskin in particular, I certainly hope we'll still see pushing forward and making those kind of late runs in the box. He scored a couple of goals from doing that last season, finding himself at the back post to good effect. Obviously, that was something that Taverner used to do, on a virtually a weekly basis, appearing at the back post for goals, because that's just a classic position that always has space. When defenses are being drawn outwards to the opposite side by wingers, being tricky and good moving from strikers. If you move the team to the side, that back post space is there to be exploited. And, for years we've had Tavernier doing it. We're going to need new people to do it moving forward. So if Raskin can continue to do that, then that'll be a positive. And if he's doing that, then that puts the onus on one of the other midfielders to obviously sit back a bit. So I think we'll see a little bit of movement in that respect. And that'll be the bonus, I think, of those three in particular, Rothwell, Diomande and Raskin, working really well, because I think, as I say, they do have all the ability to shift around those three areas. Whereas when we've got Asgard on the pitch, maybe Cameron on the pitch, who are more traditional attacking midfielders, they'll maybe have a little bit less in that defensive nous. And so we maybe see a little bit less movement in that respect. And so again, it's not that that's necessarily worse, but it just means that it's a different. They'll need to find different weapons in their arsenal then to sort of bamboozle their opponents and find those spaces.
Yeah, no, do agree there, do agree. That's some good insight, Doug. With Osgaard's, there was a side to it I was thinking, obviously, where Gassama is at the minute, that kind of would be a little bit more of a natural position. But I thought he could do a kind of job there. Yeah, it's definitely different to everyone else. Ryan, what do you reckon? I take it. Do you reckon that'd be a bit too disjointed for a starting 11?
No, I'm happy enough with it, mate. There's lots of goals in there. It's obviously just a shame that Askar's get injured there. But we wouldn't be Rangers if we didn't sign somebody who then gets injured. So it's just a shame. If anything, it's too attacking. You might find that Raskin seems to forget his defensive responsibilities, and you're obviously asking for him to be very disciplined. But no, I've got absolutely no issues at all with that lineup, mate. It's a lineup that you played to win a game, and there's problems all over the park. You've just got to make sure that you're not getting caught out. You might find it you've got three midfielders there, Diamandi, Asgard and Rasky. You just got to make sure they don't wander. You actually make sure there's actually, you know, an actual midfield there as such, that they don't all get carried away and end up charging up. You're playing with a top six and leaving your back four vulnerable. But I've no real issues on it. If you started like in a league game playing against a team that's got a low block, I think you would find some answers to the low block through that team. I'm only kind of slightly concerned about possibly the calibre of the opposition that we're playing. It's a European team that we're playing. So you might find that they'll be able to pick that apart a wee bit too easy. But by all means, I've not got an issue with it if it was to happen.
Yeah, there has to be a little bit of conservatism, doesn't there, in kind of the way you play, especially against European sides, especially Champions League qualifiers. You know, you don't get bad sides in there, even though looking at the kind of potential draw today, if we were to go further, I think a lot of us were kind of licking our lips, but still, it is a massive task. And for me, I love attacking football, and I just think attack is the best form of defence. I know that doesn't work for everything, and it has lost managers their jobs in the past, but that's it's just the kind of way I've looked at things. Colin, what do you reckon, mate? Is it far too attacking?
No, I really like it, Andrew. I'm absolutely gutted. I'm with you. I'm gutted Asgard's not available because, you know, we mentioned it before. Himself and Gia have apparently been the two standouts from pre-season in terms of the St George's camp and a couple of bounce games. So really looking forward to seeing him in a Rangers jersey, probably in the second leg. Again, you know, the midfield area looks like it's the strongest area of our squad, not just in terms of the starters, but the guys we can rotate in, the likes of Lyle Cameron. We haven't mentioned Connor Barron yet, who can do a job, but I don't think he'll start either. You know, you've got Barami who can play in there, and obviously Rothwell. So we're really strong in that area. And I think just in terms of this game tomorrow night, I think Martin will be looking at the long game in terms of we're almost guaranteed to finish the 11 that'll finish this game tomorrow night are likely to be stronger than the starting 11. Because if you think you've got Iguman on the bench, you've got Dessers on the bench, you've got probably Gassama on the bench, you've got really, really strong options off the bench. So, you know, if we need a boost after 60, 65 minutes, he's got some excellent options to come on and, you know, either build on what we've done the first hour for a goal or two ahead, or, you know, if we're level, to change the game. So we'll have to show a bit of patience. And I know we're not good at that, but, you know, we will have game changers off the bench, and just hopefully we can get off to a good start and start building the momentum.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Obviously, it is it's a tie of two games. Obviously, you've got you know, I don't want to use a Clement cliche, but it's being ready for the marathon, not just you know, being in the race, so to speak. But that's probably a little bit lost now, I think. But I just feel Ibrox, you know, this is we're not used to doing our ties this way around, but you know, we've always been quite lucky with these type of ties where we'll be away first and then be at home last, where you know what you need to do in front of your own crowd. I do just feel we just need to be in a comfortable position tomorrow night. Obviously, I'll take a win no matter what, even if it is just by a goal. But I'd like us to be comfortable, and I feel the way of doing that is overwhelming Panathinaikos, to be honest. Look, you know, Panathinaikos, we played them many a time over the years. I remember in 03, 04, we nearly got a famous win out there when Emerson scored, and then we conceded in the last seconds of the game under McLeish. And you know, we've always got a fairly good result out there in Athens. Obviously, you know, we go back to the UEFA Cup as well. But I just feel that get the business done tomorrow night, and then you haven't got to worry as much out there. And don't get me wrong, even if you do win 3-0, you've obviously not got to take your eye off the ball going over to Athens, because, you know, obviously, yes, it's not their home ground we're going to. Yes, it will be a complete sellout. But you've always got to be wary in Europe, and I just feel that we've just got to attack. But like Brian said, you do have to be careful of, you know, being too gung-ho where there's gaps in behind, and then you've got that defence there. So it's about having that right balance. So I like an attacking team. What can I say? You can see I've played FIFA for many years, can't you? But there we go. So that's my team. And yep, keep your comments coming in. We're going to go through some of the comments now before we finish the show. So I'll just remove this quickly. I can't. Oh, my mouse has stopped working. There we go. Perfect time for that run out of battery. So let's go for some comments. So Mark Dowie, Rangers over 3-1. Big step up from Motherwell to Rangers. Champions League. Curtis should start. So Curtis, do you think Doug Curtis could start tomorrow? Is there any situation you can see that happening?
I think if he's going to play, he's more likely to come off the bench. I think it's for such a big and an important game, I would be wary about throwing him in from the start. He has performed well, but that wasn't in a friendly, and I've not really heard much since then in terms of like standouts or performances. I do expect to see and hope to see him, throughout the season. I think he's got potential. I've heard for quite a long time that he's a great finisher, and he showed that in that Bruce game. But I think he's more likely to come off the bench, where he could potentially affect the game against tiring legs, where he can use his youth and his energy as a positive. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see him start. I wouldn't be upset necessarily to see him start. Like I say, I do think he's talented, but I think it's more likely to come on rather than to be from the beginning.
Okay. Colin, go on here for you now. If Cameron is selected, I could see this lad stealing the limelight. Would you agree with that one? Do you think would this be the type of game that you would play him in?
I don't think so. It's a huge step up from playing for Dundee to playing in a Champions League night. Same argument as Doug's made there for Curtis starting. It is a huge step up. But having said that, Russell Martin has shown previously at previous clubs that he is willing to give young players an opportunity, a platform to perform. So it would massively shock me if Cameron started. We haven't seen that him start in any of the preseason games, I don't think. But I do think there's a real chance that Curtis might be given the nod. We all have variations out wide. I would not be surprised at all to see Finlay Curtis starting one of the wide spots, but can't see Cameron starting. He may have an impact off the bench, and hopefully he will. Yeah.
There we go. Hopefully he will, and hopefully it is the start of a bright future with the Rangers first team, especially with his showings in pre-season. So I did have that one from Big Shug, but I think we covered that a little bit earlier about Bajrami working with Martin might help his gameplay with a manager that kind of has the ball at his feet rather than the kind of punt up the park.
There's a few guys like Andres. Sorry, just say there's a few guys like that. I think Diamandi's another one who might benefit from the playing style. And that's a good point.
Oh, definitely, especially the way he played at Northshire. Very kind of technical team for that kind of team that they were. And definitely, I think that's why he performs better in Europe, because I think we are, it sounds mad to say, but I think we do try and move the ball around. We've got that little bit of extra space in there, and I think we're very good at it. And I think he drives a little more in Europe. I think in Scotland, a little bit more defensive, which I don't think ever suited him in that kind of double pivot. But got one for you, Ryan, from Curry. Martin saying it will be the final squad in the future with positions. Do you think he's looking to get what positions? I think you mean what positions do you think he's looking to get upgrades? So I know it might still be a fairly long list, Ryan. What's the kind of main three you'd go for right now where we need upgrades?
Goalkeeper, left back, striker.
Yeah,
just as simple as that. It's as simple as that. We need, unfortunately, to see a goalkeeper away. First of all, you probably see sign a goalkeeper and then move Butland on. That's the kind of risk on there. We're obviously actively trying to move Redfan on. I'd be surprised if he actually wasn't even just in Turkey just now, just waiting for a phone call where he used to go. I'm sure it'd be one of the Istanbul clubs that he goes to. And we've obviously got two strikers that I think we've named our price for Dessers, and I think we've named our price for Ligaman. It's just waiting for somebody to actually come in and actually meet the valuation that we've got for them. And then You've got Turgeman there, who's been very heavily linked. His agents even following us on Instagram now. I think that's pretty much expected to go through if and when we sell one of our strikers. You've still got guys floating about in the background like Vardy and stuff like that. These kind of names are still kind of kicking about. Which Vardy will very much split opinion until he scores a hat-trick against that mob. So and then he'll be the biggest hero going. So
he would just score a hat trick. He'd do the hat trick and then whip out a can of Red Bull and just like drink it there on the spot and just launch the corner flag, wouldn't he?
As long as it's only a can of Red Bull he's whipping out, will be fine. So, but I think it's just a case that I think we need to see a few out before we see any more in. You know, there's plenty of guys that we know that they pretty much don't have a future. Your Cifuentes, your Davises of this world, that have got to get shunted on before we bring any more in.
Yeah, I think that's why it's kind of going to, not necessarily a halt, but I think this is why things have just quietened down a little bit. Obviously, transfer business is starting to kind of really gear up now for a lot of other clubs. Club coming back from the Club World Cup. Teams really getting underway with pre-seasons where some new managers are looking and going, no, I need some new faces. They're making moves, and you start kind of seeing people.
It's just a domino effect, isn't it? You'll see clubs further up the food chain than us that will start moving people about, and then the domino effect will start to happen, and we'll be absolutely fine, I'm sure.
That's it. No, exactly. It's plus it's people kind of forget, I think, sometimes as well. It's a massive upheaval at the club at the minute, with kind of out with the old and with the new, and it doesn't happen overnight, sadly. But with it looks like we've done well so far. I've got a final question, and it is from Curry. Before the stream ends, I have a question. What's your favourite moment of the day night out? And no, Ryan pumped the chair does not count. It was a great night out. It was absolutely fantastic, and it was good to see some people from the comments as well there. And it was just a great night out. You can't beat a night out in Glasgow, especially in Walters and of course Roseville, two very good pubs. So do visit them if you have the chance. Now, if you want any more in-depth look at Panathinaikos, then Doug, the lowdown, that is out now. That came out at 6 p.m. So do, when you finish watching this, do get that on, and Doug will be going into some detail with Panathinaikos. Doug, after doing your research, do you think that obviously, everyone will go and have a look at your pod, but do you think that they'll have much in their arsenal at Ibrox?
The main advantage they've got is that they're a settled team, as opposed to us who are putting together a new team. They have lost a couple of key players who are some of the more creative players, so that works in our favour. But despite needing to sell, they kind of doubled down and decided, no, we're going to keep some of these sort of key players and keep our team together and our manager together. So I would say that they're 12 months ahead of us in terms of being settled and into their system. So that will work for them. That they'll be able to rely on that, players that know how each other's work and where they move and how they pass and things like that, which is things that our players will all still be learning right now. So that's really the key difference. But as I say, we've built fantastic like 6 years of European football on great Ibrox nights, and I think we can continue to do so. They are a beatable team. They can cause us damage if we're not up and at it, but they're definitely a beatable team. If we'd drawn them in any of our previous years in the Europa League, we would be feeling confident, and I feel that we should be the same going into this as well. It's especially now we know the next tie as well, which is we got the best result in that next round, and if we drop down, the Europa League tie is actually much harder than our Champions League tie, in my opinion. So they shouldn't need any more motivation to win this. Guarantees you league phase football of some description, and you're arguably getting your easier route to the better level as well. So everything to play for.
That is it. If we do get, now don't get me wrong, you can't think too far ahead. We've still got to play Panathinaikos, but if we do go to the third qualifying round, it's either Victoria Pleasant or Servette, which you would take any day. So quickly, I'm just going to go through everyone before we head off. Doug, prediction, is it Rangers win tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going to go for 2-0, go for Danilo, and because it's Europe, penalty from Tav.
Penalty from Tav. Let's start the penalty at Rangers early this year. Thanks for coming on, Doug. Colin, prediction, and is it a famous win at Ibrox tomorrow to get Russell Martin under the way?
Yep, Jane, I think so. Like Doug said, Panathinaikos are definitely beatable, and I can see us beating them 3-1. I think Dessers will get one off the bench.
Oh, Dessers off the bench. That's an interesting one. He's almost out the picture a little bit now. Nice one. Well, thanks for coming on, Colin. A pleasure as always, and good to see you on Saturday, pal. And Ryan, your prediction, is it a win for the Tets?
Yep, 2-1 to Rangers. To deal with one, I'll go Raskin with the other.
Raskin with the other. There we go. Well, there's the predictions. Everyone's saying Rangers win. Don't forget, check out Doug's Lowdown. It is out there on YouTube now under the Rangers Journal. And of course, the guys will be back tomorrow with pre-match and post-match build-up. So do like, subscribe, and turn the bell notification on. And don't forget to follow the Ibrox channel on Twitter. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, guys, in the comments. And every night is a Rangers Journal night. Take care, and hopefully a win for the famous. Take care.